What if the world we know is slowly disappearing? Not physically, not overnight, but underneath everything we can see. Something may be changing. The systems we depend on, the way information reaches us, the way money moves, the way governments operate, the way humanity understands itself. According to a series of messages attributed to Ashtar, humanity is approaching the end of what they call the old matrix, a system supposedly built around fear, control, separation, and limitation. And in its place, something entirely different is beginning to emerge. A new Earth, a new timeline, a new level of consciousness. But there is one disturbing question. If the old matrix really is collapsing, what exactly is replacing it? And more importantly, who is behind this transformation? The word matrix has become one of the most powerful ideas in modern spiritual culture. But in these messages, the matrix isn't described as a computer simulation. It is something broader, a system, a structure, a way of thinking, a civilization built around limitation. According to the Ashtar narrative, humanity has been living inside an outdated system of fear, emotional manipulation, and separation. People are encouraged to compete, to consume, to fear one another, and to believe that they are powerless to change the world around them. The message claims that this system is now losing its influence, and something new is beginning to replace it. Era of Light's 2026 material describes the old matrix as fading while a new Earth reality emerges through awakened consciousness. Content reference, oocyte, 1 index equals 1. But there's a problem. None of this has been scientifically demonstrated. There is no scientific evidence proving that an extraterrestrial civilization is dismantling a planetary matrix. So why are these messages becoming so powerful? Perhaps because they describe something many people already feel, that the world around them is changing faster than they can understand. According to the Ashtar messages, the collapse of the old matrix isn't supposed to mean the collapse of humanity. Quite the opposite. It is supposed to be a transition. Old systems disappear, while new systems gradually take their place. In this narrative, humanity is moving away from centralized control, fear-based structures, and scarcity toward greater transparency, freedom, abundance, and cooperation. One of the more extreme versions of this story even describes advanced technologies being used to create a completely different global system, a system involving artificial intelligence, quantum computing, advanced communications, and what the message calls a new Earth financial system. The idea sounds almost impossible, but this is where the story becomes much more interesting because some of the technologies mentioned in these messages. AI, quantum computing, distributed networks are real technologies. The extraordinary part is a claim that these technologies are somehow connected to a much larger spiritual transformation. And that is where belief ends and speculation begins. Perhaps the most controversial part of the story is the idea that humanity is approaching a technological transition far beyond what we currently understand. The Ashtar narrative describes technologies that supposedly operate at levels far beyond today's conventional systems. Stargates, advanced energy systems, quantum technologies, artificial intelligence, and even systems supposedly connected to human consciousness. In the April 2026 Ashtar message published by Era of Light, advanced technologies and so-called Stargate systems are presented as part of a larger transformation of Earth. Content reference, oocyte, 2, index equals 2, but again, we need to separate the story from reality. Quantum computers exist, artificial intelligence exists, advanced energy research exists, but there is no verified evidence that these technologies were given to humanity by extraterrestrial civilizations, and there is no confirmed evidence that secret stargates are currently being operated on Earth. That distinction matters, because the real world is already strange enough without needing to invent evidence. Then comes one of the darkest ideas in the entire narrative. According to these messages, humanity has been caught between two opposing forces, one representing control, fear, secrecy, and domination, the other representing freedom, consciousness, and what the messages call the light. The claim is that the balance between these forces is changing. The old controlling structures are supposedly losing their power, and humanity is entering a new phase. This idea appears repeatedly throughout the era of light material. In the April 2026 Ashtar message, technologies previously associated with the old matrix are described as being redirected toward protection and balance. Content reference, oocyte 3, index equals 3, but here is where we should stop and ask a difficult question. What if the matrix then comes one of the darkest ideas in the entire narrative? According to these messages, humanity has been caught between two opposing forces, one representing control, fear, secrecy, and domination, the other representing freedom, consciousness, and what the Ashtar narrative also introduces another idea, the transition from 3D consciousness to a higher state of awareness. In the old reality, people supposedly operate primarily through fear. Fear of losing money, fear of losing status, fear of other people, fear of the future, fear of death. But the new earth is described differently. More cooperation, more compassion, more awareness, less attachment to fear. And this is where the concept becomes surprisingly philosophical. Because even if we completely remove the extraterrestrial element, the question remains relevant. Can humanity actually change the way it thinks? Can a civilization built around competition become more cooperative? Can people become less controlled by fear? Can technology be used to connect humanity instead of dividing it? The spiritual message says yes. But science cannot currently confirm a planetary shift from 3D to 5D. That remains a spiritual belief, not an established scientific phenomenon. Now imagine, for a moment, that the message is correct. Imagine that the old matrix really is weakening. What would we expect to see? Old institutions becoming unstable, people questioning traditional authorities, information becoming harder to control, artificial intelligence transforming entire industries, financial systems becoming increasingly digital, people questioning what they were taught about reality, and perhaps most importantly, millions of people becoming interested in consciousness, spirituality, and the possibility that humanity is part of something much larger. Look at the world today, and you can certainly find examples of these changes. But that doesn't prove an extraterrestrial transition. It could simply be the natural result of technology, globalization, social change, and the information age. And this is what makes the Matrix theory so fascinating. It can be interpreted in two completely different ways: as a literal extraterrestrial transformation, or as a metaphor for humanity's psychological evolution. But then comes the question, why is the name Ashtar repeatedly connected to this story? In spiritual and UFO communities, Ashtar is described as a highly advanced extraterrestrial or interdimensional commander associated with a larger Galactic Federation. Messages attributed to Ashtar often describe humanity as being monitored, protected, and gradually prepared for a larger transformation. But there is no independently verified evidence that these communications actually originate from an extraterrestrial being. They are channel messages. Their authenticity cannot currently be established through conventional scientific methods. And yet, millions of people are fascinated by them. Perhaps because they offer something modern society often struggles to provide: a sense that humanity has a purpose, a sense that our struggles are part of something larger, and perhaps a belief that the chaos around us isn't meaningless. But there is another possibility, and perhaps this is the most important part. What if the greatest danger isn't the old Matrix? What if the danger is believing that someone else is going to save humanity? If we believe extraterrestrials will fix our governments, our economies, our wars, our environmental problems, then we might stop taking responsibility ourselves. And that would create a very different kind of matrix, a psychological one, a belief system where humans wait instead of acting. This is why the distinction between spiritual message and factual evidence is so important. The idea of a new Earth can be inspiring. The idea of humanity becoming more conscious can be meaningful. But we shouldn't confuse an inspiring narrative with something that has been scientifically proven. Perhaps the real transformation begins when humanity learns to question both sides, not blindly believing and not blindly rejecting, but investigating. So, is the old matrix really collapsing? According to the Ashtar messages, yes, they describe humanity as standing at the edge of a profound transition. An old system is fading. A new reality is emerging, and consciousness, rather than technology alone, is supposedly the key to the transformation. But what if there is another interpretation? Maybe the Matrix isn't an alien structure. Maybe it's a collection of beliefs, institutions, habits, and fears that humanity has built over thousands of years. And maybe what is actually collapsing is our certainty. The certainty that we understand reality. The certainty that humanity is alone. The certainty that our current civilization will exist forever. And perhaps that is the real mystery. Not whether Ashtar is right, but whether humanity is entering a period where the old way of understanding ourselves simply no longer works. Maybe the old matrix isn't collapsing around us. Maybe it's collapsing inside us. And if a new Earth really is emerging, perhaps the first thing that has to disappear is the old version of humanity itself. This is the crystal mind. We first listen to the story. Then we discover what is really behind it.